About 2 years ago, I helped kickstart Yooka-Laylee, and this Tuesday I finally got to see what Platonic Games came up with, and I'm fairly disappointed. After 2 hours of playing this game, I was fairly bored and not drawn in at all. I spent the last 2 days trying to think about what it is that failed to grab my interest. Since I think there are plenty of things in this game so far that are alright. I mean, I enjoyed the opening. The villains are fine. I don't think their plan is all that great, but it could work further down the line. Although my issue is that our heroes, the titular Yooka-Laylee, don't really have any kind of stakes in the villain's plan. And sure, they get their books stolen, but even then they didn't really care all that much to begin with. At least until they thought they could just sell it. And we really haven't gotten to know these characters to where we can just say that they want to be heroes because they're good people. And while we're on the topic of characters, the character designs are interesting. I can definitely appreciate Trouser's visual pun. Although something about Yuka kind of appeals to me as a furry, even though he kind of has a twink build to him. Though I kind of can't stand a lot of these voices that they chose to give the characters. I'm usually okay with the wah 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 voices that some games give their characters, but here it feels like they're overemphasized. And instead of just going along with the dialogue, they draw too much attention to themselves. Although overall, while the visual designs seem alright, there's something that just hurt my eyes about this game. I don't know if it's because I was tired, or if the game is way too vibrant and colorful. Ironic, since a lot of our games nowadays are gray and drab. This would have been a great breath of fresh air in terms of colorfulness, but it just seems a little too polished. I even tried turning down the graphics settings to see if that would help. It does a little, since the graphics, all it seems to do is just add more light filters, and which in turn adds more shadows. But doesn't really help with that gleam that makes it look like it's plastic. I kind of wish that the graphics were actually kind of crappy looking. Maybe have Nintendo 64 era type textures. The game does seem to have this option, but it's locked away until you beat the game at least once. Which now, moving on to the topic of gameplay, I felt very bored playing this game. At first, I was kind of reminded of what the Lord of the Games said in Banjo-Kazooie Nuts and Bolts, that maybe gamers nowadays aren't into collectathon type games, which now that I think about that game, makes me wonder if at some point Microsoft said, yeah, these types of games are crappy, so yeah, let's stop production on this Banjo-Kazooie 3 game that we're almost finished, put all these levels together and shove it out as a racing type game. Because yeah, maybe this type of game no longer works. But then I booted up Banjo-Kazooie and I actually became engrossed again. I spent an hour beating the first level and collecting everything there was to collect in that. And I had to kind of pull myself away so I could do other things I needed to do for the day. Because I was enjoying myself. I don't think the issue is the fact that this game makes the player collect things. I think the issue might be the level design. Banjo-Kazooie's first level is a lot smaller, tighter. The collectibles are a lot closer to each other, but just hidden enough to where the player has to explore and figure out where some of these collectibles may be hidden. Whereas Yooka-Laylee's first level is larger, the collectibles are more spread out, and to top it all off, in order to collect everything, you have to make the level even bigger, which while the levels are pretty to look at, it just makes the levels seem a lot empty. And when you look at how Yooka-Laylee learn new moves as compared to Banjo-Kazooie, bottles as little dirt piles are spread out through the level, next to level designs where you would utilize those moves, as where Yooka-Laylee's character is just in one point, you pay him in collectibles to teach you moves, where only 2 of those moves are utilized in that immediate area. I'm sure the smaller level designs was a constraint of the Nintendo 64 at the time, but limits can sometimes paradoxically increase an artist's creativity and design, and how to best utilize those constraints. And sure, while in Yooka-Laylee the first level feels a lot more vast, it also feels more empty. But I guess the big question now is, do I regret kickstarting this game? Not really. I only gave it $15, and that gave me a free copy of the game, as opposed to the $40 asking price for this game, which, based on my 2 hours, I wouldn't recommend to someone. Get it on sale if you're really that curious. Will I finish this game? Maybe. I mean, if anything, I could always hope to see Yooka in more compromising positions. Or I can just wait for artists to pull his character model from the game and put him in those compromising positions. And he still doesn't have Fat Banjo beat. Now I'm wondering if Nuts and Bolts is a better Banjo-Kazooie game than Yooka-Laylee. Well, at least Yooka-Laylee's jokes are better than that of Styx and Shards of Darkness.